Alright, hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of My Microphone Sucks and it picks up my computer and you're going to have to deal with it. In front of me today, I have a ship that I built like a week ago. This is the Anaxiris PvP frigate. It is a ship designed for keen server combat. It has 38 railguns and it does a ton of damage. And I'm going to be releasing this on the Steam Workshop as of right now, so that you can get it yourself and maybe, the Keen servers will be populated with more workshop ships in a good way. So, for starters, we've got the front of the ship here. I use these cool, like, green lines here. They're green, and they're cool. And, then we'll come to, like, the very bow here, and I got, like, this sort of rounded shape, but most importantly, there's a lot of cameras, and there's railguns. This is a very common theme. Look at this. Cameras, railguns. All over here, camera, railguns. More railguns. There's way too many railguns on the ship. I don't know how I fit them all on, but I did. So yeah, it's basically just a big wedge, maybe more of a sloped wedge that comes out into these wings here. There's a bunch of jump drives in the wings. Don't get your wings shot, you'll lose all your jump drives. That's maybe a design flaw, but I couldn't fit them anywhere else, so you're gonna have to deal with it. There's a bunch of thrusters on the outside. I don't really like putting thrusters on the inside of my ship because it wastes a lot of space, especially with ion thrusters. They require 3 blocks, or 2.5 actually, of space beyond the thruster to actually be able to not hit anything. That wastes a lot of space on the inside of your ship, and when it's as small as this thing is, I mean, this thing isn't tiny, but when your ship starts to get small and you're pressed for interior space, I find it's better to just have a bunch of redundant exterior thrusters instead of 1 or 2 safe interior thrusters, because you get so much more volume out of your interior. For stats of the ship is 16.8 thousand PCU, or 16.85 thousand PCU, to be precise. And, once again, it has 38 railguns, 5 or 6 reactors, I can't even remember at this point, I put so many. And it has a 112 meters a second per second upwards/downwards gravity drive, which allows it to dodge a lot of shots. The thrusters are paint. Look at that. Neon lights thrusters. They're pretty cool. And also a couple of ions for docking and, of course, controlling the gravity drive. We've got one connector, and really not much else. This is about the same on the top as it is on the bottom, except for the front here. Now I'm going to go inside. There isn't actually a door on this ship, so watch closely to how you get in. You see this little, like, flappy area here with, like, the opening? Go in here, and now you're into the reactor maze. We have 4 reactors here. And then if you just come down through this passage here, you can scoot through this first reactor, take a left, and bam, now you're in. A couple things. We have all of our gravity generators here, placed on mass blocks, of course, because mass blocks are a very strong block. We have a sort of sound block to give you an early warning system. It interfaces with the AI defensive block. The defensive block isn't as useful as it normally is, because if we go back on the outside of the ship, you will notice that we do, in fact, not have any turrets at all. You should have made that observation already, but just in case you didn't, we've got no turrets, so the defensive block will not lock and fire at enemies because there's no turrets, but it will sound this fancy alarm, which lets you know where your enemies are. On the sides, we're protected by a bunch of railguns, and we also have a rotor here to stop desync. Rotors are pretty PCU expensive, so there's only one. And there's a button on the toolbar to re-add it, I believe. Coming into the cockpit and getting into the ship, I have a couple of controls here on the hotbar. These are mostly for fighting people. We have blind jumps, we have 2 of the cameras, and we have the railguns in the first slot. But in the third slot here, we have a button that toggles the railguns on and off. This allows you to cancel your railguns firing, so that if you're a god manual aimer, and you look like your opponent's about to dodge your shots, you can just cancel your railguns firing and get another chance. We also have in the 7th slot an option to switch between using all of your railguns and half of your railguns. It's pretty finicky, but in this case, it allows me to fire half of my railguns and then fire them again. In this case, they kind of blew up the front of my ship. That's probably not good. Pressing the keys on my computer, I can see that we have, a ton of thrust. 112 meters a second per second, upwards and downwards, and a solid, I'd say 40 meters a second per second, forward and backwards, and an abysmal, 10 in the sides, or even 8 in the sides. But you don't really need side thrust, you just need it to dock. Of course, on the second toolbar, we have a bunch of other redundancies. It's basically a second railgun toolbar, but if you lose your cameras, that is access to different cameras. We have the first camera here, this underside camera, this auxiliary camera, and of course we have all the jump drives. On the third toolbar, we have even more auxiliary cameras, a button to attach another rotor head. For some reason it's a piston head, and an option for the connector here. And on the fourth toolbar, we actually have gravity drive balancing. If the front of your ship takes too much damage in fight, you can simply switch on all of these, and now all of a sudden your gravity drive, well, it looks imbalanced here. When you take damage in fight, you'll actually be rebalancing your gravity drive. That's about it. There's nothing on the 9 slot. I sometimes put stuff there. Anyways, this is the moment people have more or less been waiting for. There's an enemy ship, or really a friendly ship, in front of me, and I'm going to shoot at it for a second. Let's see what happens with 38 railguns. What could ever go wrong, right? I'm gonna be honest, I'm pretty glad it survived, but there's a pretty big hole just through the entire ship. There were no explosive things in this area. This is just all railguns going straight through. So if there are any hydrogen tanks or cargo containers or reactors or guns in that area, they would all just be completely deleted. The reactor in this case is gone. It's dysfunctional, and even the hydrogen tanks got hit, even though they were way outside of the firing path. So I'd say this was a pretty big success, and I'm glad of how much damage the ship deals. You can grab it on the Steam Workshop, and the link should be in the description of this video. And that's about it. See you guys in the next video, I guess. Bye.